Yeah, no. Like he's going to run for the community seat on steering.
Okay, yeah, I was confused because I thought at one point you mentioned his job was not mesh related at all.
Yeah, but he's still going to be involved, right?
But the thing is, the people are not going to have time for us if it's not part of his job.
Uh, Craig seemed pretty. Well, I mean, we'll see how he does, but
Yeah, but I mean, that's been with everybody, like Dan Berg and everybody who left their primary job on Istio, it's just going to be on very reduced capacity.
uh, I mean, definitely there will be some reduction in capacity, but I think Craig does actually intend to stay moderately involved.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, but either way, I think it would be good to have more people have access to the workgroup calendar.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. With the transfer to the CNCF, I don't know if they have a Google app account that the calendar could be transferred to. Let me talk to Craig about that.
Okay, yeah. I guess our Slack would be related to we transfer our Slack to paid now.
Right, there's that as well.
All right. So anything else we want to talk about this one? It sounds like we'll do a Slack poll to come up with a time, and we'll put that. We'll somehow get that on a calendar, and then the question becomes, I guess, and I don't know if this was part of that question, Lynn, was whether we continue with using Google Meet or whatever it's called today, and or something else. But I assume somebody from Google would typically be on the meeting, so that shouldn't be an issue. But okay.
Yeah, I like to switch to Zoom if we can. Oh, because I think John, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the gateway meeting I'm using, right? So hopefully there's something provided by CNCF or something.
Yeah, I don't know what they use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where does Zoom record meetings to?
I think you can record them directly to whoever hits the record button, I think.
maybe
That's not actually what we want. Like we actually want them to record to something that's Google Drive like, right? That they're shared.
is our meeting automatically put in Google Drive? People still have to do it, right?
Yeah, no, like there's an outstanding feature request to say save the meeting to this drive instead of save the meeting to your personal, the meeting owner.
Oh, I see. So Google Meet has that capability. Okay.
Should. Um,
I mean, the
But the
question is
biggest
just
thing
making
is that
sure it's shared to somebody who can post to YouTube, right?
yeah, because the biggest thing is on YouTube because the shared Google Drive is still pretty limited visibility.
I mean, it's fully public, but yeah, either is fine. Um, anyway, in neither case it's automated. I just don't know what Zoom offers.
Okay, we can try to each see what. So first of all, Zoom they require license, so we'll have to see what CNCF can offer too on
Right.
this. Yeah. The only advantage I would say is other people can record without any Google, which is an advantage.
Right, right. I would agree that would be an advantage, but I'm assuming that at least for the ambient work group that Google would be involved, or at least somebody from Google would be involved with the meeting. But
Yeah, let's try and keep this meeting also more technical. We can take this kind of
yep.
stuff offline.
All right. And so next up was I'm going to say Alice Gard because that's the name that's there.
Yeah, hi. Just Ali here. Yeah, just I covered all those details for the inbound listener thing to avoid confusion in the docs. guys requested last time. So just want to make sure if it's not a complex ask, but suggestions welcome, and see if we can get, because our subsequent upgrade should be inclusive of those patches, so that we don't have to maintain an in-house fork. So let me know if is there any major concerns in changes, or how should we proceed, so that yeah.
All right, so I think the ask there is to look at the design document and give any feedback there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've also shared the PR, so I'm not sure if we want to make it in a big change or any other major suggestions, but I can amend accordingly. That's the thing. Yeah, I also added the steps of how to reproduce that, and to see if we can folks can get the idea.
Right. So it's to let the listener declaration in the sidecar API override any inferred listeners created based on service resources or listening ports inputs. Is there a requirement if you're overriding an existing application or service port to allow the listener, the explicit listener, to still refer to it as a backend?
Yeah, I mean, so until unless sidecar always takes precedence, right? If the port in service and in sidecar ingress is same, but in case it's okay to even let sidecar go through some admin level API for the customer, like some customers can expose multiple ports, right? And the data plane port will be like the app facing port will be via the service, which will be taking the route of mesh via virtual service gateway. But with sidecar, they might want to do some admin stuff and things like that, right? So it's still valid to have multiple listeners, right? On because
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having multiple listeners. I mean, that's why the sidecar API has a white box.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what to call it anymore. Mode. The only question I had is if you were trying to capture a port, override a port, but you still wanted to talk to the application backend on that same port, what would you? I'm not sure you have a way to refer to it other than maybe using original destination or a reserved cluster or service entry.
Yeah, that is possible with that route, but I don't think we are taking that route, because sidecar is more controlled by our controllers. Like, we don't let customer mess around with the routing on app level via their custom sidecars in their namespaces. So
Right, but we still have, we still have to solve it in Istio, right?
yeah, if we want to override on that front, yes, but then it depends, right? Why? Yeah, it is possible to allow that scenario, but I always assume that it's that's why I wanted to know the intent. Like, if we give the sidecar ingress, like, what was the intent to let sidecar always proceed, right? So I'm sure that if there is same port for both the cases, I'm not sure why will we do, like, just to make sure that we also want to serve the service and also honor the sidecar ingress. Like, if the port is same for the non-conflict, non-unique ports, it's okay. But if for the same ports, I'm not understanding why, until unless there's some enforcement or OTZ policy, or like some restriction. I don't know, because all I can think of is the port level MTLS, which can be controlled if you expose it via here. But that's the only thing. I don't think for service it should. But we can add that as an incremental add on. I don't know. Yeah.
But
I
so,
don't
so
think.
your use case is to create an explicitly new port,
Mhm.
and where are you sending the traffic to exactly?
The new port. So, for example, you want to directly access. So you're having a data plane port, and you also have a second port, which is in this case, and you want to do some admin checks whether the backend is healthy, bypassing mesh, right? Because in case there is a mesh outage or whatever reason, you all still need a backdoor to go to app and check versus of exec and via some APIs, right? To say that okay, you can still access things are fine for some of the web pages via the backdoor entry. So that's where we are trying to reflect that use case. Ideally, most of the folks just use whatever service ports via the virtual service, so we don't run into this kind of special scenario. But yeah,
Are you talking about something like the status port we expose for Prometheus?
that status port, yes, that's one thing. No, but this is the app port, not for the Prometheus directly. Like if app is in app can be non-go as well, right? They don't need to be exposing just everything to Prometheus. But,
No, but I understand the port is actually it's forwarding to the application Prometheus port, and probably can aggregate other information if it's not confidential. The only concern is that this is health check, a lot of things are exposed on this port, and it already has infrastructure to get stuff from application, but it's not secure. I mean, it's something that is just kind of low value information like metrics.
no, this is non-metric. This is the, like you can say, a second report for the same data plane port that app is using, like some
Okay, so this is actually exposing the application itself.
Yep. So we
Okay.
have plans. Yep, this exposes the application, but it has like more admin privileges compared to the real application port. So you can they can back and do like query, go to the app. So we allow direct access through peer authentication for time being, because it's like more of a migration process to move even this port in mesh. Like it's a long process. It's some kind of legacy app. So we want to make sure that is honored as well. So for time being, we are allowing permissive mode for that particular port, so that they can actually access their stuff, even though we have strict MTLS enabled. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that this small fix could cover that. But anyways, that's where we are at.
Yeah, so Carsten, I think that's what they're using. They're using the sidecar ingress.
Mm-hmm.
They're using it to basically bypass all the security properties of transport and also authorization policy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So what is not working? I mean, I still don't get what is broken with this. I mean, you can set arbitrary policy, you have full control over the port. I mean, you can set authorization policy, you can check MTLS secrets.
Yeah, but when you declare, so I think the current I don't know whether we can treat it as a bug, but if we declare this port in ingress and the other port which is exposed by a service.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
it's a bug.
Yeah, so then I think that data plane is being treated as TCP. So if you see the access logs and everything, it's being treated as TCP traffic.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. There are a couple of bugs in that sidecar.ingress. I mean, if you have duplicated ports, or yes, I know that should be fixed, but it's not sure how high priority is for anyone. I mean, if you can send a PR, we'll be happy. But
yeah, so that is why we are tracing something. There's no data plane impact, but we are seeing this like like a big drop in matrix and everything, and we debugged and it came out that this is what is it's not creating a dedicated listener for the port exposed in service, and it's just passing it to the pass-through cluster as a TCP traffic. So then the app level actual traffic becomes hard to be debugged. So that's why I shared that if we can allow both, it will have listeners for both, so that you can see the actual matrix, including the access logs as expected, as a trivial fix.
yeah, I looked at this in the past, and I hit that bug also, and the fix was a bit complicated given the way we generate stuff, but we could fix it. I think that's not always good. But in the past, I think we also discussed an idea of allowing gateway to be used for sidecar. I mean, the TLS stuff was kind of merged, I think, already. So it may be a different approach because the sidecar ingress is kind of not very popular API. Is not very, so that's probably why the bug is still there. I mean, very few people use it. I don't know, John. I don't know if John is still around, but especially given Gamma and gateway discussions where we want to kind of converge, it may be worth exploring that if we can replace sidecar ingress with gateway and find a way. Again, that's long term. Short term, probably fixing the ingress is the best solution. Louis, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's a bug and somebody wants to submit a patch, it sounds reasonable. Obviously, we have to make sure there's reasonable disclaimers in the doc about the security properties of this, right? Which I'm not entirely sure are there in the sidecar ingress API documentation right now. It's like something has to say, if you do this, you are bypassing all the security properties. Yeah, it's probably premature to try and say we're going to put this behind the Gamma API. Well, it's definitely premature. And if we want to treat it as a bug, then anybody can submit a fix. For ambient, I think what we would do is we would use the gateway using to declare ambient. It would open a port and you would talk to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The midpoint proxy, which is a gateway, will probably be the way where this will be exposed as HTTP. So that's why I was suggesting using the gateway API, because that would fit well with the midway thingy.
Yeah, so neither is going to be ready in probably the next 6 months, right?
Long term, then starting the discussion, because if we decide to do it this way, maybe that will influence how we implement this. Since sidecars eventually be gone, so the sidecar ingress that will not make a lot of sense in the future. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So are you guys okay for this as a short term? Because we are anyways on like older version. We are planning for like 1.14 or newer soon, but we'll still continue to use that API, right, till we converge to the gateway API. So I think that for existing, if it's okay to go through, because eventually I think our goal is also to cut over this to via the virtual service and the gateway route, so that we don't have to manage it. But anyways, for folks using it, they are hitting this bug. So I thought it's okay to.
If you have a PR, I'm happy to help, but please don't ask me. I tried once and it was.
yeah, I have the PR. I have shared in the doc, but then that is why I was like, it was a trivial change, but I am okay for this as a short term. If there is any documentation we need to update, I can amend in the same PR. But yeah, that's what I felt for, at least for short term. We use that internally too, just to get over this issue. So, but yeah.
Sorry if I missed some info. I had to step out for a bit. Are we saying that it's a bug that adding the ingress resource is not merging with the default ones? Why? I mean, like, I agree there's plenty of reasons why you may want to merge, but it seems like we're just changing the entire behavior of it and then finding that the bug, like, that can't be fixed in a patch release or something. It's a huge behavioral change to the API.
So John, what is the current behavior if there's a sidecar ingress declaration for a specific port that is the same as a service port or a container port?
Yeah, so in both sidecar egress and ingress, if you have one of those policies, then you're saying, I'm taking over explicit control. So you're saying, if the egress, for example, you say import Istio system, you're saying, I only want Istio system. I don't want everything like the default. Ingress is the same. If you don't have anything, you say, I want all the ports auto-configured by the service. If you do have ingress, then it's now a allow list model. And so if you list only one port, you only get one port. I totally agree that there's many reasons why you may want to have an override model, but I don't think we can just change the API. We could add an option somewhere that's like override or something along those lines, but the API is, I don't think it's a bug. It's working as intended. It's poorly documented, but it's clearly intended to be implemented this way. if you look at the code.
I mean, John, how the code is written doesn't reflect how the API is intended. I mean, ingress was intended to add additional ports, not to replace the ports. As far as
I'm
I
not
know.
actually sure that's true, Costin. Right? I think there was a discussion about the intent of you had to declare everything if you used ingress.
Yeah, I mean, let's not confuse the fact that our documentation is terrible in what we should do with the behavior, right?
Okay, so John, is it okay if we expose it via some like an environment variable or something, just for on need base, or because I mean I don't know, because eventually we'll also be moving this port via the VS route, right? Till things are in place, but
Yeah, I think so. One, I totally agree with this use case. Like, I've actually told people don't use sidecar because you're going to mess it up because you're only going to define one port and you're meant to have the other ones, right? So, like, I'm very sympathetic to this. I'm not sure an environment variable is the right move, though. Like, this seems like it's something that's on a per sidecar basis where you'd want to decide.
yeah, this is like we have like pool of like 1,000 apps where it needs this custom settings, so we'll have to program all those 1,000 sidecars basically. So with this, with the ingress and also egress, right? For the traffic exiting, we want to go via the egress gateway. So that's where this one port needs to be taken care yet, because it's kind of a legacy app. So till they converge everything, so.
So maybe a namespace configuration, like mesh config, like what we do with telemetry, could be more reasonable, because it sounds like something you don't necessarily need it for the entire mesh, just for the legacy app.
Yeah, so right now we can, so the current logic kicks in only if there is a namespace level sidecar, right? So we can add one more that for the merge, we can add like a environment, as John suggested, that okay, allow or you know, by default, whatever the intent was, which he explained, that if you declare ingress, it should go in that route. So if folks want merging explicitly, we can, if they declare sidecar plus the service port, else we fall back to the original functionality, which is right now.
Okay, so it's activated with the environment variable along with the sidecar configuration in that particular namespace you wanted that has the ingress declaration. That's
Yeah,
how
we
you
can
selectively
activate. Yeah, we can activate with the additional environment variable. Right now in the PR, I have not addressed that. I have just assumed that if it's sidecar plus this, we allow merging by default, because I was not aware of the original intent, but we can filter by this. If everybody is okay.
So it sounds like nobody else has any other comments, and the thought here is you will update the PR with the environment variable.
Mm-hmm.
Given that what we have is not very usable, I don't see the harm of doing this, because it's we could try to get a survey of how many people use sidecar ingress, and when I don't know what is the problem. People don't use sidecar ingress because it's broken because of the implementation, or it's not documented, or there are no use cases besides this kind of stuff. But I cannot imagine anyone using it in the state as it is very effectively. So
It's pretty widely used in VMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again,
I mean, I feel like we absolutely cannot just change this without, like, this would be the worst breaking change we've made to an API. So I think all VM users would probably instantly have an outage if we made this change. Because I think one of the main reasons they do it is that if they're using VMs or white box mode, they don't want to bind to the default port because it would conflict with their application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think if we then ended up exposing these extra things, that would then conflict with them and they'd start having all sorts of issues.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This shouldn't be the default. This needs to be hidden for a while, before people have a chance to play with. And particularly on the VM scenario John was just mentioning, I think that's been pretty much widely recommended by people on the VM.
I agree with both of it. That's again, an environment would avoid breakage because it will be opt-in and people, But I think an even better solution would be to just add another field to the ingress, which can be set, and that will indicate that again it's a ingress that is additive and it will merge or whatever. I mean, I don't know what. Probably you want it in 1.14, so you want it back portable. So API changes are difficult.
Like an operation to do merge with the default behavior.
Yes, something like that. But again, how we do it, if your goal is to get it in 1.15, 1.14, API changes in sidecar are not really feasible.
Yeah.
Annotations are usually, kind of have bad karma and bad reputation, but they would work. Because environment variables is global. I mean, if you happen to have some VM, I mean, it's a bit, and it's very hard to set, but anything else would, I don't know.
Annotation seems slightly more practical here, but
especially since we know that eventually you want to move to use gateway and use midway things. So since it's something that will eventually go away no matter what, an annotation will not be so hurtful. And it's super easy to implement because you just check the sidecar annotation when you generate this.
So would be an annotation on the pod that you have the sidecar injected?
I would put it on the sidecar itself because it affects the behavior of the sidecar. And it's easier to implement since it's throwaway, more or less.
Yeah, but who's going to put that annotation though? I mean, it's user going to put the annotation, right? Indicate, okay, so that would be the annotation at the pod level because user doesn't, unless you ask user to change the injection template.
No. The sidecar is a CRD and whoever is adding the port in sidecar.ingress, they control how the.
Okay, the sidecar resource. Got you.
Capital S,
in the
sorry.
sidecar container.
No. Capital S versus lowercase. They always fit us. Another reason to replace sidecar CRD and the sidecar with a lowercase. Both of them should go.
Okay, that seems fair. Yeah, the sidecar resource it's pretty nicely scoped, right? It could be mesh wide, it could be per namespace. I think it also have a selector too.
Let's not get that far into merging. I mean, for the use case, probably if they just put it in next to the ingress port they want to have merge behavior, I think it's good enough and document that it's not merged global. I mean, keep it as narrow as possible. So because we want both sidecar, both capital and lowercase sidecar to disappear at some point. So why overcomplicate?
Sounds good. So yeah, the suggestion is to go with the annotation on the sidecar object for the versus on the Istio with an environment variable, right?
Seems better than a void filter. So by the definition.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll try it out and
John,
update.
You are the most opinionated on this. Can you leave with an annotation?
I guess so.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I mean, like, it seems like it would be better in the API, but I also don't know. Like, you can't put it under ingress because ingress is a list, and then it's like, what do we make a new field that's like ingress merge true or false? Like, I don't know. Annotation's not great either, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seems better than the alternatives right now, and we don't want to accumulate more API changes as an API that we're looking to get rid of over time.
So just to double confirm, any annotation is fine just to merge, or on the sidecar we can adjust the custom annotation, right? Or I don't want to go, or just to avoid any major API change, right? Just to kick in this logic, I'm okay to add this either side, either on the Istio bit or for the sidecar.go or on that portion, whichever keeps us running till till the other 2-3 releases.
I would say whatever is least amount of code, so we don't overload the code and create extra complexity and break other things accidentally.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so I'll amend the PR that way. No problem with either of this, but I'll take care of that. Thank you.
All right, so next up is performance scale tests. And
No, I'm just asking for updates. I don't know if Mitch or anyone else had the time to look. We had a discussion last time, and I want to see what's going on, because we again, I'm not sure what's the page was out of date, and we don't have any place to point to people to, and to kind of get information for ourselves. And last time we discussed about performance, but also we need to discuss scale testing. I mean, how we cope with large number. The sidecar is also involved here. I mean, when sidecar become necessary and so forth. Anyone? And I suppose sidecar, the new ambient will also probably benefit from having A/B tests and some baseline.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that I'll share the details. I mean, I had the sheet, but it went through some other team, and finally it went to the legals department. So they'll review it, because we had some matrix. The performance comparison with some hardware load balancer for some pools. So I'll take that off, and at least whatever we had for the sidecar runs, I'll share it as is, so that folks can review or look at it offline for 1.10 for the different profiles of sidecar. But I was hoping that it should have been ready, but sorry for the delay. But I'll post it sometime this week if all approvals go through.
But can you run it for 1.14, 1.15? I mean, basically or contribute some of the configs so we can run them independently, or what's the plan going forward? I mean, it's wonderful that
we have some plans. I mean, we have that internal deliverables in line, but 1.14 is the next. So I think we'll definitely run against it. But let's see how it will go with directly using, because we use our custom framework, but we can share the scenarios templates at least for sure, because that's what we use for our scenarios. Because we have a dedicated lab setup with 50 bare metals, and we run up to 5,000 services, and on huge level. So I'm not sure if community also has a dedicated lab where they have 50, 100 machines or nodes, and then you keep running those many load tests. But yeah, I think we need to align that with our internal tasks.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I think we may find some 1,500 machines somewhere in Google, but and I think we had some large cluster, but it's just a matter of automating and getting the test in place. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
all right, anything else? All right, I know it looked like Lynn was talking for a second, but there's nothing else on the agenda. All right, I'm fine with nobody has anything else to call the meeting for today, and we'll talk to people next week. All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.